back with me. Not to the grand temples of ancient Rome, not to the roaring crowds inside the Colosseum, but to an ordinary street just before sunrise. The air is cool, and a faint mist hangs over the stone roads. Shopkeepers haven't opened their doors, and the city's famous markets are still silent. Yet one house is already alive with activity. Dozens of men stand outside, waiting patiently. Some hold small baskets filled with fruit, others carry folded scrolls, and a few simply stand with empty hands. No one is here by accident. Every person in this line believes that the man behind these doors has the power to change their future. As the doors slowly open, the crowd begins to move. One by one, they step inside. Some leave with a smile, others leave disappointed. A few whisper quietly before disappearing back into the waking city. To an outsider, it might look like neighbors paying a friendly morning visit, but it wasn't. This daily ritual helped shape careers, influence elections, and decide who held power in one of history's greatest republics. Most people imagine ancient Rome as a place where leaders rose through brilliant speeches, public debates, and the will of the people. The reality was far more complicated. Behind the marble buildings and political ceremonies was a hidden world of favors, loyalty, influence, and ambition. A world where power was often earned long before a single vote was cast. Today, we're stepping inside that hidden world to discover how power was really won in ancient Rome, and why understanding it changes the way we see one of history's greatest civilizations. In the months leading up to an election, Rome transformed. The streets grew louder. The markets became crowded with conversation. Every handshake mattered. Every public appearance was carefully planned. Every smile carried a purpose. A politician couldn't simply ask for power. He had to earn attention. He had to earn admiration. And sometimes, he had to earn loyalty in ways that stretched far beyond a speech. Wealthy candidates hosted extravagant banquets where tables overflowed with food and wine. Public games filled the city with excitement. Gladiators fought before cheering crowds. New buildings were funded. Festivals were organized. To the people of Rome, these acts looked like generosity. But generosity often came with an unspoken expectation. Remember who made today possible. Remember who paid for the celebration. Remember whose name you heard again and again. This wasn't always illegal. In fact, much of it was perfectly acceptable in Roman society. The line between genuine generosity and political influence was often difficult to see. Yet there was another side to Rome's elections, one hidden from the cheering crowds. Roman writers and court records tell us that some candidates crossed a line the law tried to prevent. They secretly offered money, favors, or rewards in exchange for support, a practice known as ambitus, or electoral corruption. Laws were passed to stop it. Some politicians were prosecuted. A few even saw their careers ruined. But proving corruption was never easy. Deals were rarely made in public. Promises were whispered behind closed doors. Favors could be disguised as gifts. Influence could hide behind friendship. And by the time election day arrived, the outcome might already have been shaped long before the first vote was cast. But the greatest threat to Rome's political system wasn't hidden in secret payments or lavish feasts. It was something far more dangerous: a struggle for power so fierce that words would eventually give way to violence. For generations, Rome believed that power could be won through persuasion, reputation, and the support of the people. But as the Republic grew richer, so did the rewards of holding office. Governors controlled wealthy provinces, generals commanded powerful armies, politicians gained influence that reached far beyond the city itself. Suddenly, losing an election no longer meant missing an opportunity. It could mean losing everything. And when so much was at stake, some men stopped competing with words. They began competing with fear. During election seasons, Rome's streets could become dangerous. Rival supporters shouted at one another in crowded forums. Fights broke out without warning. Political gangs patrolled neighborhoods, intimidating opponents and protecting their own leaders. Public meetings were sometimes disrupted before they had even begun. Ordinary Romans, who simply wanted to go about their daily lives, often found themselves caught in the middle of struggles they never chose to join. One of the most notorious clashes came during the rivalry between Publius Clodius Pulcher and Titus Annius Milo. Their supporters repeatedly fought in the streets, turning parts of Rome into scenes of chaos. Then, in 52 BC, everything reached a breaking point. Clodius was killed on the Appian Way. News of his death spread through Rome like wildfire. Furious crowds carried his body into the Senate house. In their anger, they set the building on fire. The flames consumed one of the Republic's most important political buildings. Imagine witnessing that moment. The smoke rising into the Roman sky, senators fleeing for safety, citizens running through streets filled with confusion and fear. This wasn't an invading army. This wasn't a foreign enemy. Rome was tearing itself apart. The Republic still stood, but the trust that held it together was beginning to crumble. And in the years that followed, one man would recognize that weakness better than anyone else. By the middle of the 1st century BC, the Roman Republic was no longer the confident nation it had once been. Elections were still held, senators still debated, laws were still passed. From the outside, the Republic looked as strong as ever, but appearances can be deceiving. Behind the marble temples and crowded forums, years of political rivalry, corruption scandals, violent clashes, and personal ambition had slowly eroded the trust that held Rome together. It was into this world that one ambitious politician continued his rise. His name was Julius Caesar. Caesar understood something that many of his rivals failed to see. In Rome, popularity could be just as powerful as tradition. He spent lavishly on public events, built strong political alliances, and won the admiration of many ordinary Romans through military victories and bold leadership. But every step forward also created new enemies. To some, Caesar was the leader Rome desperately needed. To others, he was becoming too powerful. When he crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC with his army, he broke a long-standing rule that Roman generals were forbidden from leading troops into Italy without permission. It was a decision that ignited a civil war. Romans were no longer fighting foreign kingdoms, they were fighting each other. Families chose different sides. Friends became enemies. Cities that had once celebrated Roman victories now watched Romans spill Roman blood. Caesar emerged victorious. In time, he was appointed dictator for life. For some, it promised stability after years of chaos. For others, it marked the end of the republic they had sworn to protect. Then, on the Ides of March in 44 BC, a group of senators surrounded Caesar inside the theater of Pompey. Believing they were saving the republic, they struck him down. But they had misunderstood the problem. Killing one man could not repair decades of political division, violence, and mistrust. The system itself had already been changed. Within a generation, the Roman Republic would give way to the Roman Empire, and the world would never be the same again. As the sun climbed higher above ancient Rome, the crowd outside the senator's house slowly disappeared. The baskets had been emptied, the conversations were over, the promises had been made, and life in the city carried on as though nothing unusual had happened. Merchants opened their shops, children ran through the streets, senators gathered to debate the future of the republic. Yet, beneath the surface, countless small decisions, favors exchanged, loyalties rewarded, ambitions pursued, were quietly shaping the course of Roman history. Ancient Rome wasn't built in a single day, and it didn't change in a single day either. The Republic wasn't transformed by one election, one politician, or even one act of corruption. It changed gradually as generations of Romans learned to navigate a system where influence, reputation, wealth, and personal loyalty often carried as much weight as the ideals the Republic claimed to uphold. That's what makes Rome's story so fascinating. Not because its people were so different from us, but because, in many ways, they weren't. They celebrated ambitious leaders, they argued about politics, they worried about the future, they hoped their children would inherit a better world. And like every civilization before and after them, they struggled to balance power with principle. Nearly 2,000 years later, the marble temples have weathered, the Senate has fallen silent, and the voices that once echoed through the Forum have long since faded. But if you walk through the ruins of Rome today and pause for just a moment, it isn't difficult to imagine those streets coming back to life. The footsteps, the conversations, the crowds waiting patiently before sunrise. Because history isn't only found in monuments, it's found in the choices people make, and sometimes the smallest choices leave the longest shadows. Thank you for traveling back with me. Until our next journey, the past is never as far away as it seems.